Hey friends, it's Justin and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are celebrating the Catherine Pooler April release and I am so excited to show you today's card using the new Trail Mix collection. I do have all of the products used in today's card listed below, so if anything I've created inspires you to go get your shop on, using those links below helps support me as an artist. We're going to be using the new tufted cover plate die, the Wilderness Collector stamp set and coordinating dies, the party green enamel dots, and the Trail Mix pattern paper pad to put our entire card together. Now for our color palette, I'm going to pull 3 pieces of cardstock. We are going to be using Aquatini, Creamsicle, and Catching Rays paper. And then for inks, we're going to be pulling in the brand new Getaway color, Uptown, and also Samba to put everything together for our card. And these are just going to function so well together for our final project. Now, starting with that piece of creamsicle paper, I'm going to take the tufted cover plate die and position it onto my panel so that I can get it ready for die cutting. I'm going to tack my die down just with a piece of 1/2 inch mint tape and die cut it off camera. Here you can see the wonderful design that we get when processing it, and I love all those little circular cutouts. Now we are going to use a little bit of Samba ink, and I am going to blend the edges of our die cut using a blending brush just to get a nice variation of color along those edges and promote a nice ombre effect. I am making sure to tap off my brush before I start blending just because I did re-ink it recently and I don't want it to look too splotchy. Now, after I finish my first go around with the panel, I'm not super happy with how smooth the blending looks, so I'm just going to kind of continue with my blending brush using the residual Samba ink and blend around the panel until I get a nice smooth ombre effect with the ink to our colored cardstock. Once I'm happy with how it looks, I'm going to take some of that residual Samba ink, wet it down, and then pick it up with a clean watercolor brush to do some splattering onto our panel. I always like to emphasize, use a clean brush just so you don't have any color cross contamination. Now, once I'm happy with the amount of splattering using that Samba ink, I'm going to wipe down my workspace off camera and then bring in some Glitz Shimmer, and this is going to give that nice deep yellow coloring that the Glitz color offers, and then splatter it onto our panel to just get some really nice additional detail. I'm always on board for anything that's going to add a little bit of glitz and glam to our cards and really amp up that special factor, and this definitely does it. As you can see, we get a bit of a closer look to see how that glitz shimmer catches the light, and I just love how it looks. Now we're also going to pull in a die set. This is the Knots and Crosses die set, and I'm going to be pulling in the middle 2 size dies from this set. And we're going to do a little bit of die cutting. We're going to use the largest die from the Catherine Pooler Favorite White cardstock. So I'm going to tack down the die with some mint tape, and then on a piece of Aquatini cardstock, I am going to die cut the smaller of the 2 die cuts from that color, and I will die cut them off camera. Now, using the new Getaway ink, I am going to just sort of smush and smear the ink onto the edges of the larger white die cut to give it a nice Getaway color border. I don't really have to worry about smushing and covering the center area of the square. That's going to be fully covered up, but we do have good coverage using those edges with the Getaway ink. And I love this soft coral color, and it's just going to be so perfect for our card. Now, Uptown ink is going to be really helpful to ink blend our Aquatini colored cardstock, and I'm going to use Uptown just to sort of blend the edges. Aquatini and Uptown are part of the same color family, part of the party line of inks, so they coordinate really nicely together, and Uptown just really darkens that edge. So here you can see what our Aquatini layer will look like on top of our Getaway layer, and I'm just trying to figure out how exactly I want to paste these 2 layers together when getting our final card taken care of. Now we're going to pull in the trail mix pattern paper, and I'm actually going to use it to add some sentiment embellishments using this type print. And I'm going to take my guillotine trimmer and very carefully sort of line it up to trim off a couple lines of text. And what this is going to do is this is going to give me some clean lines of tape that I'm going to be able to cut apart individual words and almost create it as like one of those build a poem magnetic fridge sets that you can do. It kind of gives me those sort of vibes, and we're just going to run with it for our card. So I'm preparing all of these sentiments. I'm not even using too much of the panel so I can save whatever is going to be left over for a future card. And I just want to make sure there are 4 different strips that have different series of words. I want 4 of them that are going to be about the same size so that I can play with them for our card. So I've gone ahead, I've gotten my strips all prepared, and now to cut the words, instead of using scissors like I initially planned on doing, I'm going to go in with my guillotine trimmer to cut apart the little words. Now, I do end up with 8 different words or phrases. There's 2 on each of the strips that I've cut, and I also am going to have some extras that I can pull in later. So I really love how this is turning out. I love the clean cut rectangular edges that we're getting with our guillotine trimmer. And once we have all of our little words prepared, here you can see we've got this little collage of all the words. We're going to pull in our collector badge stamp set, and I've got 2 images already colored up using my Olo markers, which I did off camera. We're going to now put all of our pieces together to decorate this center square of our card that's really going to hold all of the personality of the project. So we're going to adhere our aquatini square that we ink blended with Uptown ink on top of our getaway square that we've prepared. I'm going to map out where I want my badges to go, and I've decided to do opposite corners kind of on an angle, and we are going to start propping up these elements using some foam tape. I'm using some 3mm foam tape strips, and this is going to give some really nice dimension once I start adhering these to our project. So here you can see putting them in opposite corners, meaning the upper left and the lower right, and now I can start sort of putting the different words together that we've cut from the trail mix pattern paper. I'm trying to sort of alternate between the standard font and the more cursive font just to kind of make everything be a little bit more cohesive. And that little one I just put down, we're going to end up swapping in a second just because it was a little too small for me. I do end up deciding that I want to put 5 different strips of words. I like to operate in odd numbers, so 5 strips plus 2 badges. We're going to get a total of 7 elements to work with, and I just love how these all look together. I think these colors just mix so perfectly with one another, and I love how this little detail square turned out for our project. Now I'm going to take some Catching Rays cardstock and trim it down to be oh so ever slightly less than A2 size, and we are going to use this as a backing piece for the tufted cover die that we had prepared earlier in this card tutorial. So using some liquid adhesive, I am going to put it on the back of our panel, and I want to get some good coverage, but not enough liquid adhesive coverage that I have to worry about it sneaking out of each of those die cut holes. So I try my best to avoid them, and then I'm going to stick it directly onto the Catching Rays paper that we had prepared just a couple moments ago. So I'm going to add a little pressure, put everything into place, and then I'm actually going to do an extra bout of foam tape because I want the square that we'd prepared for the center of the card to have even more lift to it to really make it extra special. So I'm going to remove the backing of the foam tape, and I do decide to put it in the center of the card. However, we are going to slightly tilt it just because I think it's a little bit more whimsical, adds a little bit more interest, and I just think it looks really fun. So after we get our center square nice and secured, of course, we've got to add a little bit of embellishment. So we're going to pull in the brand new Party Greens Enamel Dots by Catherine Pooler. I love, as part of the Year of Color initiative, that they are giving us enamel dots in the party colors that we love so much. And this Party Greens collection is no exception. It works so wonderful with the wilderness vibes that the Trail Mix collection promotes. And it's definitely going to need to be something that you add to your stash. Now, last but not least, we of course got to get it onto an A2 sized card base. So I'm going to put a nice amount of liquid adhesive on the back of our prepared panel, not trying to do too much, but definitely enough that it will be nicely secured to the card base itself. So we're just going to add a little bit of pressure, get everything nice and secured to the card base. And once we're happy with how everything is connected, we're going to call it and say our card is fully completed. I just love how all of the elements of this came together. I love that we used patterned paper for our sentiment, and these colors pop so perfectly. Now, don't forget, I have all of the products in today's video linked below for your shopping convenience, so make sure to head over to the Catherine Pooler website and give the brand new Trail Mix collection some love and snag your favorites. Thank you so much for stopping by today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and happy crafting, everyone. Goodbye.